The richest black community in America wiped out in one day. And for almost 100 years, no one was allowed to talk about it. This was Greenwood, Oklahoma, the place history would come to call Black Wall Street. It was a shining example of black prosperity, ingenuity, and resilience, and was obliterated in one of the deadliest episodes of racial violence in American history. In the early 1920s, Greenwood was unlike anywhere else in the United States. It was a thriving, self-sufficient community, built entirely by African Americans who had carved out freedom and opportunity in a world that sought to deny them both. Streets were lined with elegant homes. Theaters hosted live performances. Banks and businesses thrived. Schools flourished. Hospitals provided care to a population largely ignored by the segregated institutions of white America. This was a community that did not rely on charity. Greenwood had created its own wealth, its own society, its own blueprint for black excellence. But success, as it often did in America, made Greenwood a target. The wealth of the community was more than money. It was a symbol. It was a challenge to the racial hierarchy, and some white citizens of Tulsa viewed it as a provocation. The tension had been simmering for years, fueled by rumors, petty disputes, and the daily resentment of Greenwood's prosperity. And then, in May of 1921, a single incident ignited the tinderbox. Dick Rowland, a young black shoe shiner, was accused of assaulting a white woman in an elevator. The details of the encounter are murky, loss of time, but what followed was tragically clear. A mob formed, intent on lynching Rowland. Newspapers fanned the flames, exaggerating the story, and within hours, racial tensions exploded into violence. What followed would become the Tulsa Race Massacre, a planned, deliberate, and systematic attack on a community that had everything to lose. From May 31st to June 1st, 1921, Greenwood burned. White mobs attacked, looting and setting fire to homes and businesses. Planes flew overhead, dropping incendiary devices. Families fled for their lives, carrying whatever they could, while neighbors and friends were killed, beaten, or dragged from their homes. This was not chaotic rioting. It was orchestrated destruction. Survivors were left without shelter, without jobs, without insurance, and without any protection from the authorities who should have defended them. Banks refused to honor claims. The city refused to rebuild. The wealth of Greenwood was systematically stolen, ensuring that the massacre's effects would last for generations. Officially, the death toll was listed at around 36 to 300 people, but historians now believe the number may have been closer to 1,000. Many victims were buried in unmarked mass graves or burned beyond recognition, leaving families without closure. And for decades, the story of Greenwood was omitted from textbooks, silenced in newspapers, and ignored by historians. The massacre was real, the loss was immense, but America chose to forget. What many people don't realize is that the economic destruction of Greenwood continued long after the fires were extinguished. Survivors were blocked from reclaiming their property. City planning and zoning laws prevented reconstruction. White developers moved in, purchasing land at pennies on the dollar, while banks refused loans to rebuild black-owned businesses. Insurance companies claimed acts of God and denied claims. The massacre wasn't just a physical assault. It was a legal and economic assault, ensuring that the wealth Greenwood had created would not survive its destruction. Despite this, the spirit of Greenwood endured. The community's culture, resilience, and ingenuity survived the attempt to erase it. Descendants of survivors continue to preserve the memory of Black Wall Street. Stories of the thriving businesses, the schools, the hospitals, and the arts remain alive in family accounts and local archives. Greenwood was more than just a town. It was a model for black prosperity, a glimpse of what could have been a systemic racism had not intervened so violently. The national impact of the massacre is often overlooked. Black Wall Street wasn't merely a local tragedy. It was a warning, a demonstration of how far the system would go to suppress black success. It instilled fear, stifled entrepreneurship, and shaped patterns of segregation and economic inequality that still resonate today. The destruction of Greenwood was a loss not just for those who lived there, but for black communities across America. It erased a blueprint for wealth and empowerment, demonstrating the extreme consequences of challenging white supremacy in early 20th century America. And yet, The resilience of Greenwood is undeniable. Today, memorials mark the site of the massacre, and descendants continue to fight for recognition and reparations. The legacy of Black Wall Street is reflected in modern Black entrepreneurship, cultural preservation, and activism. It is a testament to what can survive even the most deliberate attempts at erasure. Jazz, education, business acumen, and community cohesion all echo the achievements of Greenwood citizens, proving that while a town may be destroyed, its spirit cannot be fully extinguished. Black Wall Street is not just a story of tragedy. It is a story of resilience, ingenuity, and injustice. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How many other histories have been buried, rewritten, or erased? How many communities were stripped of their wealth and legacy without ever receiving justice? The massacre of Greenwood is a reminder that history is not only what is written, but also what is silenced. If you want to understand the true roots of America's racial and economic inequalities, you cannot ignore Greenwood. It is a case study in how wealth, ambition, and success can provoke fear, envy, and ultimately violence. It is a story of systemic oppression, disguised as legal and social norms. It is a story that America tried to erase, and for almost a century, largely succeeded in doing so. But the truth cannot be kept hidden forever. The story of Black Wall Street is more than a historical footnote. It is a mirror reflecting the persistent inequalities in our society. It is a warning and a lesson. It is a testament to the resilience of a people who, despite unimaginable loss, refuse to be silenced. And it is a call to remember, to honor, and to learn from the past. Black Wall Street was burned, looted, and silenced. But its legacy survives in the hearts of those who remember, those who tell the story, and those who fight to ensure that what happened in Greenwood is never forgotten again. The massacre may have destroyed a town, but it could never destroy the truth. Greenwood's story is a story that must be told. It is a story of wealth, success, betrayal, destruction, resilience, and hope. It is a story of America at its worst and, simultaneously, at its most enduring. A story of human ambition, greed, hate, and the unbreakable will of a community that refused to vanish from memory. And as you hear this story, remember this: Black Wall Street is more than history. It is a living reminder of the power of systemic injustice, the fragility of prosperity in the face of hatred, and the strength of those who refuse to let their voices be silenced. It is time to remember. It is time to honor. It is time to confront the truths that America tried to hide. Black Wall Street is gone, but its story is far from over. If this story shocked you, hit like to make sure the world doesn't forget Black Wall Street. Subscribe for more hidden histories and comment. I'm ready to learn the truth. Every click helps honor the lives erased from history.